In this video, we'll talk about how to identify glossary terms from business process model. Let's take a look at today's agenda. To begin, we'll explain what glossary and glossary terms are. And then we'll talk about Glossary Grid, the tool that helps you manage a glossary. We'll then move on to Term Editor, where we put in the term definitions. Then we'll talk about term identification. We'll cover two approaches: textual analysis and business process diagram. And finally, we'll talk about how to highlight terms in business process. Basically, a glossary is a list of terms. A term refers to the name we call a thing, a person, a place, a concept by, and we have a description to explain its meaning. In a way, you can think of a glossary as a dictionary, in which you can look up a word or phrase or what we call terms to learn about its meaning that you're not sure about. Terms and glossary are domain specific. What does it mean? It means that the same term may mean different things in different domains or contexts. For example, in automaking business, the term machine may mean the engine that powers a car. On the other hand, from a doctor's perspective, a machine may be a life support system that sustains a patient's life. It is nothing like a car engine. For a space station, machine can mean an equipment like a crane that moves things around. So when we talk about glossary, we would need to specify the domain or context first. Without a domain or context, a term would be meaningless. Glossary is used to avoid ambiguities during communications by establishing a common language, without which, when you discuss with other people, they may not understand what machine you are referring to, as there can be many possibilities. Going back to our example earlier, it can be a car engine, a life support system, or even a crane. A glossary offers a means to explain the ideas behind the concepts of the terms. One important thing to keep in mind when writing descriptions of a term. That is, do not use a term to explain another term. For example, if you're talking about the order in a company, don't say order is the order submitted by the customer. Instead of order, describe it as documents, electronic copy, or documents submitted by the customer. As a general rule of thumb, we do not want to repeat the term itself in its explanation. Very often, we use more than one term for the same thing. For example, the term order and sales order and invoice may actually mean the same thing, despite they're from different perspectives. One of the most extreme cases can be seen in the engineering field, where they have 5 terms referring to the same concept. No worries, actually there's a way to define these terms and we call it alias, which we will show you later on in this video. Now that we've briefly introduced what glossary is theoretically, let's move to the practical side, the Glossary Grid, a tool to help you manage your glossary. We're now going to show you a demo. In it, you'll see how to create terms in the Glossary Grid. We'll also touch on scope, which is particularly useful when browsing elements in a large project. We are now in Business Process Visual Architect. For those who are not familiar with it, let me give you a brief introduction. Business Process Visual Architect, or BPVA, is a business process modeling tool. It allows you to design business process visually. And this is what you would normally see once you launch it. At the top here, you can see a toolbar, and it allows you to open and save the project quickly, do some editing, and you can create different kinds of diagrams, and you can use advanced modeling feature here, even create reports, or use the team collaboration feature here. Okay, and on the left there's a diagram navigator. This is where you access different diagrams, and below it you can see a documentation pane, and you can write your documentations here. In the center, this is a large white area. This is where you draw your diagram. Now let's begin to create a glossary grid. From the toolbar, select requirement and then glossary grid, and you can name anything you want here, and I'm just gonna leave it as glossary grid for now. And if you want to, you can click the button here, configure grid, and you can hide this name section. It will give you more room that way. And to create a new term, select the button here, and let's say I'm going to type in inspection, and then press enter, and we've just created a new glossary term here. As far as the scope goes, we are currently working at the project level, and we can tell by reading the box here, project. And it is the biggest scope, and it means we're looking at all terms inside the project. But if we want to, we can work in a smaller scope, such as a model. A model is like a partition of a project. To create one, go to the Model Explorer and select the root level, and right click, select model, new model, and as an example, just name this human resources, and then click OK, and you should see human resources in the tree here. Alright, and let's change our scope to look at human resources. Okay, and select within model here, and check the checkbox here, and then click OK. And you see an empty list at the moment. That's because we have not defined any terms yet for this scope. And to do that, let's click the button here, and for this one we're gonna name this job title, and then press enter, and then we just create a term within the scope of human resources. Now we can always switch it back to the project level, and we can see the entire list of terms inside the project. When you work with a large amount of glossary terms, it is very helpful to categorize them in hierarchical structure. You can create multiple glossary grids for your project, so if you want to, you can create a glossary grid for each model. Next, we'll look at how to define labels, which allows us to put glossary terms into logical groups. For example, a group can be Human Resources Department, Order Process, Accounting, etc. This is particularly useful when we work with a large amount of glossary terms. Then, we'll see how to use a filter to narrow down our glossary list to work on. Let's go to the demo now. Back in the glossary grid, we have two terms here, invoice and salary. Let's add the label for invoice. To do that, select the box here, and then click the plus sign, and click on new label here, and let's name this label accounting, and press OK, and click OK, and there, invoice is now tagged with the label accounting. The good thing about labels is that instead of defining a single type for a term, you can also attach more than one label to a term. For example, the term salary here, it may be related to both the Human Resources Department and Accounting Department. So let's add two labels to it. To do that, click on the box here and click on the plus sign, and let's select the label accounting. Okay, and for the second label we have to create it because it's not existed yet. So click the button here and type in human resources. Perhaps I'll change the color to yellow and click OK, and then click OK. So as you can see, the term salary is now tagged with two labels, accounting and human resources. This categorization mechanism makes it easier to locate terms. Here's how to do it. You can go up here to the box and select within label. And let's say we want to just look at all the terms tagged with the label accounting. And then click OK. So we'll see both terms here. That's because they both are tagged with the same label. And let's try the other one, human resources, and then click OK. And there, the list will only show terms with the label human resources. Now this will make your life a lot easier, especially a glossary can easily grow into a list of thousands of terms. There's also a filter available to help us narrow down our list. As an example, I've pulled up a list with a few more terms here. So let's go up here and type in INSP to set the filter. Okay, and as you can see, the list now only shows terms whose name begins with the string INSP. So far, the sample glossary lists we've shown you are pretty short for demo purposes. However, in practice, chances are a glossary can easily grow to thousands of terms. Again, labels and filter are friends to help you locate terms more quickly. In this segment, we'll talk a little about how a glossary works with Excel. In particular, you can export your glossary to an Excel file. In reverse, you can import from an Excel file to a glossary grid. They're especially useful when you have a large set of terms that need some editing. Okay, let's have a look at the demo now. To export your glossary grid to an Excel file, just go to the toolbar here and then click on this button. And in this dialog box, just select the path where you want to save your Excel file, and then select your grid, and then click on the export button here. That should fire up Excel with the generated file. As you can see, the glossary names are in this column and the definitions is in this column. Okay, let's say I'm gonna change this definition here, and let me write that to a written copy, and then let me save it, and let's go back to BPVA. And as you can see right here, we're seeing an electronic copy for the definition. So let me import the revision. And so just click on the button here, and I'm gonna go to my glossary file, and if I click on the plus sign, it will show what changes is made, and then just click OK, and then there you should see the revised definition. We now move on to the subject of term editor. While the glossary grid allows you to manage a list of glossary terms, the term editor focuses on one single term in the glossary. In the term editor, you can enter definitions, or what we sometimes call documentations of the terms. You can also define aliases, which mean different names that refer to the same thing. Let's see how it works. We're now back in BP Visual Architect. Let's say we want to enter the definitions for this term here, inspection. So just double click on the role, and you notice that the term's name cannot be changed by default. and it is designed this way because we want to avoid any accidental changes to the name. So to change it, just click on the edit button here, and you should be able to make changes here, and then just click OK. As a side note, if your term is used in other business rules, the system should be able to detect it, and it will warn you against it, and it will ask you if you want to proceed with the change. Okay, so let me just cancel it for now. And right over here, this is where we enter the definition. So let me put a very simple one here. I'm just going to put in examination of equipment by inspector. Okay, and the first thing you probably notice is that this link here in blue, and it's a link because inspector is actually a glossary term already. And to open the definition, we can press Control key and then click on it, and that will take you back to that row in the glossary grid. Now let's go back to the term editor again. This editor actually supports rich text formats. So what it means is that we can actually change the color of the text if we want to. Say we can change it to green, or we can highlight this word and make it italic, etc. Okay, and now we can also add an alias up here in this section. To add one, just click the add button here, and let's say I'm going to put in checkup for one. And sometimes maybe some colleagues would refer the inspection as a monitor, so let's add another one and call it monitor, and then click OK. So now we have two aliases that refer to the same thing, inspection. Okay. Obviously, glossary keeping is very important to a company. Now the question is, how do we identify glossary terms? In this segment, we'll cover two approaches. One is textual analysis, the other is business process. Let's talk about textual analysis. Textual analysis is a tool that helps you to analyze text descriptions in order to identify candidate items for modeling and the terms for the glossary. You can select the text, right-click to show the pop-up menu, and then add it to glossary. Let's see how it works. To start textual analysis, from the toolbar, select Requirement, and then Textual Analysis. Okay, to save time, I'm just gonna paste in some random text about Inspector Gadget. So let me paste it in. Okay, and you notice that the word inspector is in blue links, and the reason is because they are glossary terms already. And to open the definition, you can press the Control key and click on it, and that will take you back to that row in the glossary grid. Now let's go back to the textual analysis to continue, and let's say that we want to add the word gadget to our glossary. So what we do is highlight the word gadget, and then right click on it and select Add Gadget to Glossary. And then there should be a new entry in the grid for gadget. And to bring up the text editor, just double click on it and put in the definitions, perhaps mechanical device, and maybe we'll add an alias to it. Let's put in something like a high-tech toy. Okay, click OK. Alright, and can close it by clicking the cross button here. And you can see the alias here for gadget and its definition. Now let's go back to the textual analysis, and you see every occurrence of the word gadget, it's in blue link as well, and that's an indication that it is a glossary term. And again, if we ever want to go back to that row in the grid, all we need to do is just press the control key and click on the link, and that will bring you back to it. Again, the steps are highlighting the term, extracted by right-clicking on it to add to the glossary. After we look at how to identify glossary terms using textual analysis, let's move on to business process diagram. This is the main topic of this video. To identify glossary terms in business process is similar to using textual analysis. First, select text. Second, right-click to show the pop-up. And finally, add to glossary. The benefit of identifying terms in business process diagram is that you can read through task by task, decision by decision, message by message, line by line, and then you can select specific concepts to explain. This is what I'm going to show you next. Here we have a sample business process diagram about how workers collaborate in the fire safety department. The supervisor selects inspection cases for inspector to schedule inspection. Then the inspector passes them to for inspector assistant to confirm the inspection time with client, and so on. Let's move back to the top here. Let's say after I read this task, I decided to make this word inspection to be a glossary term. To do that, double-click on the task to enter the edit mode, and then select the word inspection, and then right-click on it, select Add Inspection to Glossary. And now we're in the glossary grid with this new entry. Now just double click on it to open the term editor. Then for definition, I'm just going to put in a check for the system. ... Okay, and let's add an alias as well. And we'll put in system checking, and then click OK. Now just click the cross button here, and there. Now with this alias, whenever I talk about inspection, they're basically the same thing. Now apart from tasks, we can also add a row to a glossary. So let's go back to the business process diagram, and let's say we want to add supervisor to the glossary. Now just double click on it, and then on the highlight, right click on it, select add supervisor to glossary, and double click to open the editor, and put in the definition. Okay, and then you can close it, and you can repeat the same steps to add more terms one by one like this. After you define the glossary terms, the next step is to highlight them in your business process diagram. To highlight the terms is very simple. First, right click on the diagram, then select presentation options. Finally, put a tick in front of the item highlight glossary terms by selecting it. Let me show you how it works. Back in BP Visual Architect, to highlight the terms in the diagram, just right-click on the background of the diagram, select presentation options, highlight glossary terms, and here you see the glossary terms in highlight, such as inspection here, here, and over here. And it also works for the lanes Okay, and if we want to go back to the glossary grid, all we need to do is press the Control key and then click on the link. Let's go back to the diagram. And as for link, we do it a little differently. Just double click on it, and then over the highlight, right click on it, select Open Glossary Term, and then that will take you back to the glossary grid as well. Okay, let me go back to the diagram here. Next, I'll show you how Alias can be helpful in our example. Now let's move down here. Let's say I want to create a task between these two here. Okay, let me use a sweeper and make some room here, and I'll select task, and let's say in my mind I was going to type prepare for inspection, but instead my mind slipped and I type something else like system checking instead, another name for the same thing, and then press enter. As you can see, the system picks it up, and it's in highlight even though it's only an alias, but because we have defined it in the system, it will see it as a glossary term as well. Okay, and it works in the other direction as well. Let me show you how. Let's go back to the glossary grid and double click on inspection here, and I'm going to add another alias to it. And I'm gonna name it something like monitor system, and then click OK and close it, and let's go back to the diagram. Now let me add another task. Okay, let me make some room here. Alright. Okay, I'm just gonna name something like monitor system, the same alias name that we just added, then press enter. As you can see, the system picks it up as well and is shown in highlight. In case you're interested in the tool that we use in this video, let me tell you a little bit about it. It's called Business Process Visual Architect, or BPVA. An Analyst edition would enable you to do what we did in the video. It contains glossary management, glossary grid, text editor, which allows you to identify glossary terms in business process diagram. It costs $199 and with maintenance is $238.50. There are different payment methods. You can pay by credit card, by check, or wire transfer. If you wish, you can go to our online store for details. If you have any questions, please go to our website with the following link to contact our support team. Thanks for watching this video. Have a nice day.